I watched the first 2 episodes of Velma.
Oh, a discourse show.
I have to talk about it, Gar. I have to talk about it. Now, you are the podcast resident animation maven. Um, at any stage, did this seem appealing to you, and have you seen any of it?
I've only seen the trailers, and like I am fascinated by discourse things. I am one of those people who cannot look. I nearly played Forspoken this week as well because that's the discourse game at the moment, and I thankfully resisted because it'll be $20 in 2 weeks, so I'll wait until then. But Velma, I nearly did as well. I'm like, oh, it's a discourse show. I need to know. It's one of those where you see the trailers and you're like, oh, this is one of those very aggressively 40-year-olds writing for TikTok shows and people who have been on Twitter their entire life, whose minds have been broken by the fact that they've been on Twitter their entire life and write the things they see on Twitter all the time. And I kind of have to know how bad it is, but I resisted the urge and did not watch any of it.
It's so fucking bad, Gareth. I wanted the people to be wrong because there's been a lot of people using it to kind of like bash the fact that they like recast Velma as a woman of color, that they've done recasting on Shaggy aka Norval, and that they've changed different things, and that like there is definitely I wouldn't say a progressive message as much as like a small L liberal message in there. It's very much the like, I don't know, Hillary Clinton Democratic Party liberal vibe, if you get where I'm going on. Like, it's that kind of stuff. And like I'm kind of like, I'm a very progressive person, and I wanted those people to be wrong and it to turn out that it's just because of the politics of the show that people hate it. But like you could completely have the blinkers on about that kind of thing. You could be somebody that is 100% on board with that version of liberal thinking, and it still sucks.
Oh.
It's super, like, it's the thing I think that gets me the most about it is that it is so transparently someone in a room at Warner Brothers Discovery said, hey, that Harley Quinn cartoon came out where we took a popular female character from a pre-existing IP who had been she came in the animated series first and then was in the comics. We made a very much aimed at adults, full of blood, sex, swearing, animated show, and everybody loves it. And they're right to, because Harley Quinn, the animated series, is fucking great. And they were just like, hey, let's do that again. Who do we own? And eventually
really do it with Arya Stark.
Yeah.
One of the Lord of the Rings characters, Éowyn. Can we do it with Éowyn?
Can we recast John Oliver in an animated series? I don't know.
Gender swapped last week tonight with John Oliver.
Yeah, someone essentially just landed on Velma eventually. And it's just like, I suppose the animation is kind of fine. I don't think it looks nearly as good as even somebody was doing like shot by shot stuff of, was the most recent animated reboot, was that was that Scoob, or was that the movie was called Scoob?
I think it was the movie called Scoob, right?
Okay, whatever the most recent series was, somebody did side by side comparisons and it doesn't look as good as that. So I don't know what the fuck is going on there, but it doesn't look, to me, and I'm not a huge animation snob, but to me it didn't look, if the show had been good, it wasn't like that the art would have been a deal breaker for me. So I can't really fault that much. It's the writing, it's the premises, it's the pretty much after that hypothetical discussion I had where they're like, who do we own that we can just do the Harley Quinn thing to? There was no follow-up ideas to that. You know, this is essentially the origin story of how the Scooby Gang comes together. Because it's like, obviously before there is a Scooby, but they're all kind of like high school, college age, and they're all kind of leading disparate lives. And at the start, Velma and Daphne, they used to be friends as kids. Now they hate each other. Daphne and Freddy are sort of going out, but they're sort of not. Um, and it's going to be about how like the plot line that's running through it is that Velma's mother disappeared. And weirdly, nobody but her seems interested in figuring out what happened. Like, even the father is just like, no, she left us. She hated us. And he's happy with that. Whereas, like, Velma is insistent that she was murdered.
I love the
So
idea
it's
she's
all,
just gone missing one night and he's like, she's gone. Well.
yeah. And she, like, essentially, like, she needs to solve mysteries. And she's, like, there's part of her is, like, she's worried that maybe if the mother did leave, and her mother was a mystery writer, maybe if her mother did leave, it's because she wouldn't stop solving mysteries and annoyed her so much that she decided she hated her daughter and left them. And because of like the mother's disappearance wrapped up in that anxiety about solving mysteries, whenever she approaches anything that resembles a mystery, she gets these weird kind of like waking nightmares. Where like the zombified version of her mother is coming for her. It's so fucking weird. But the whole arc of the show seems clearly to be she is going to solve little mysteries along the way, but she is mainly looking for what happened to her mother. And she's already within a couple of episodes, her and Daphne are back on reasonable terms with one another. But it's like the writing is just horrendous. Every joke makes my face collapse in on itself with cringe.
Yeah, because the basic scenario you proposed there seems fine.
Yeah.
Mother goes missing, mother mystery writer, solve mysteries, find mother. That's like good, thumbs up, solid premise.
Yeah.
And it does seem like it's just the worst combination of like the most annoying liberal shit you will ever see with the most like annoying metatextual writing you will ever see, combined into this just ball of nothing.
Also, there's like all the kind of like those painful parody of lib jokes that are in it are like they'll say a thing, right? But it's not like it doesn't organically come up in the story, and it's not like making a really cutting and incisive point about things. It's like that thing where like in a news story we'll talk about later, it's very much feels like it's written by the kind of people that when like somebody gets found out as like a sex pest or a rapist or something like that, they're the people who walk into the room going, well, I never watched their stuff to begin with. You know, it's the kind of like they're just saying out loud, I have the correct opinion and always have.
I am frankly the smartest person in the room.
And a lot of the joke structure when these things come up seems to be non sequiturs that just point out the fact. Like there's one that has been doing the rounds on Twitter that I think everybody who has seen the discourse around it see, where it's just like they talk about Velma's trademark honesty, and she has the line, exactly, I spit truth without a filter like every comedian before #MeToo. And she's, not only is that just a bad joke out of absolutely nowhere, that the more you think about it, the more it's like, that's not a joke at all. Like, it has no joke structure whatsoever, but she actually says the word hashtag out loud as well, which just like adds an extra 20% of annoyance to me.
I facepalmed as you said that.
Yeah, and like there's one of the all-time, you know the way you're like one of your pet hates about anything that's trying to make like criticism of an art form or like satire or anything like that is your thing with Marvel, where they make fun of the thing and then do the thing. Mm-hmm. There is an unbelievable version of that in the first episode where they talk about how they're trying to do the thing about like parodying pilot episodes of shows, and they're like, oh, you know, pilot episodes of these kind of HBO shows. I don't know if they say HBO specifically, but like pilot episodes or of these kind of shows always feature gratuitous amounts of nudity, and then it literally segues into a scene where Daphne and all her friends are showering together in the locker room, and like an extended scene where like they are all naked, just like strategically covered in bubbles and like from the shower, and that's it. Like they make the joke and then do the thing for like maybe a quarter of the running time of the whole episode. And it's just like you're sitting there going, okay, so you're like you were saying before with other stuff, is like you are okay, so you're aware of the thing, and then you do the thing for so long it passes. Like if it had been like a quick 5-second gag, you'd be like, okay, you've made the point, you're doing the thing, very clever, pat on the back to you. But when it goes on so long, there's like, no, they're actually trying to have their cake and eat it here. I was so fucked off about it.
Yeah, like I know I've been beating this drum for a while, and I did bring up Forspoken, which I think has a lot of similar issues. I think Austin Walker wrote a very good piece this week about how, particularly around Forspoken, not Velma, but about how this ultimately goes back to like a lack of confidence in the thing the show is meant to be. Like they don't believe in their story, they don't believe in their world, they don't really believe in what they're doing. So all they really have is undercutting it. So at every turn, they'll undercut it with a gag. They'll be self-aware. They'll wink at the camera. There'll be the meta stuff. Instead of building a whole world you can get lost in and being something that is sincerely itself, which I think there's probably a very good Velma show. There probably is. Yeah. And they're just so busy trying to be like the worst form of meta, the worst form of winking at the camera, the worst form of just not having any confidence in the thing you're doing, that you have to constantly be like, actually, no, it's bad, but we're doing it, but it's bad, but we're doing it, but we know. And they constantly need to let the audience that they know. That's the thing. That like, you can't just make the thing. You constantly have to let me that you're aware of the thing you're doing. I don't give a shit. Just do the thing.
There would be an element of like, I'd almost admire it more if it was like a conservative edgelord. They're writing this with the intent of making fun of liberals, even though I completely disagree with conservative politics to the very core of my being. I'm like, at least, okay, now it makes sense why you're doing these jokes. You know what I mean? That it's coming from a place of they think the beliefs of libs are ridiculous. So now I understand. I still don't think the jokes are funny, but I understand why they're doing it. It's like it's just, I can't. I want you to watch it, Garrett. There's 4 episodes out now. They've been dropping 2 a week. They are only 20 minutes long, which is merciful. The thing that I mentioned 2 or 3 things that I think are right up in my like Champions League spots of things that annoy me the most about this show. But the more I think about it, the number one thing is there is one bright, shining thing about this show that I wish to fucking God this idea had landed in a better Scooby-Doo show. Because Freddie Jones is played by Glenn Howerton, aka Dennis Reynolds from It's Always Sunny, which may be one of the best casting choices I have thought about in years, because he is this deluded, possibly sociopathic narcissist that like he is absolutely, he's just Dennis Reynolds. He is Dennis Reynolds, and that is an interesting way to go with Freddie Jones, I think. Very early on, because there's like as she's trying to look for her mother, there's also girls turning up dead with their brains cut out around their community. And in the second episode, Freddie is considered the suspect and he goes to court and everything like that. And the degree to which he is just a complete entitled man-child, he just like unravels as a person during that. And I think that performance is really interesting. But it's just everything else about this show is so bad. And the other thing about like all those non-jokes as well is the degree to which you can hear the smirk with which they're being delivered. I was like, I fucking nailed it. You know, like when you can hear them congratulating themselves, essentially. Like it's this weird kind of anti-comedy that I can only really compare to Modern Family Guy, which has been on a lot in the background of my house over Christmas, because we've kind of just like, if I'm playing Switch and Emma's kind of having a scroll on her phone, we'll stick on some sort of animated show in the background. And we kind of, last year, we did our rewatches of the prime seasons of Simpsons and of Futurama. And I was kind of like, out of morbid curiosity, I probably haven't watched Family Guy regularly since about season 5. And now they're on season, I don't know, 20 plus. I think I was like, I've heard it's bad now, but like I can't tell you how bad that show is now either, Garrett. Like it's very comparable in that way of like they're doing things they think are jokes, but the way they're doing them seems very much like it's very hard to. Family Guy's a fucking weird show now. Like I was watching an episode from 2019 where they were doing Leroy Jenkins references.
Very timely.
Like it was brand new. There's a weird kind of like I had thought Seth MacFarlane was a center left guy, and a lot of the jokes in that show come off very right wing, in a way that I'm not sure if it's the intention. I'm not sure if it was an attempt to parody that, but it comes off as very sincere, where, like, kind of looking down at certain things. Like I don't want to get. We'll be here another hour. I don't want to open that can of worms. It is painfully unfunny, though. It is painfully unfunny as well. But yeah, Velma sucks. Absolutely sucks. And from what I know, I don't know if if episodes 5 and 6 are out yet, but I know episodes 3 and 4 are. I'm probably going to give the season a go, because I want to see if it improves any, and I want to enjoy Glenn Howard and the little slivers of him I get. And I don't want to be this kind of person that's just like, no, it had a bad first impression, fuck it. Like, sometimes shows find their feet after a little while. I don't know. The thing that I can't get over is how, like, the whole internet has been dunking on it. The first 2 episodes are genuinely, like, some of the worst pairs of opening episodes I've ever seen to a show. And yet, in this era of random cancellations, Velma has been picked up for season 2 already.
Yeah, we memed it too hard, and then people actually watched it, because they're sickos like us, Dave, who are like, I need to know. I need to know and find out.
It got Morbius.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely baffling. Absolutely baffling.